my color palette is, I'm just going to get out a little bit each of these. Yellow ochre. I'll put them there so you can, yellow ochre. Okay, and you can use Mars black or Paynes gray. I think I'm going to use Paynes gray. So if you have Paynes gray, use it. If not, Mars black is fine. Paynes gray is just more blue based. I'm going to be using ultramarine, or you can use cobalt, whichever you're most comfortable with. I think, Jane, that color you had is fairly close to raw sienna, which is fine. It's just a shade darker than the, see, it's very similar. Yeah, it looks kind of like a raw sienna, and it's just a shade darker than yellow ochre, so you'll be good with that. Okay. You just put a little bit of yellow with it, yeah, and then white. We always use lots of white, so we're going to use our white. So I've got a little bit of titanium white left, and I'm going to use up my zinc white, golden range. Okay, so our color palette, we're going to do more mixing than in the previous one. So we're going to put out a little bit of all of these colors. So I'm going to get my color palette and show you as I get everything out. I like to try and line all my colors up in a little row. I've got California Dreaming in my head now, thinking of you, Jane. It burst into song, that's why. There we go. So that's my color palette, and I might get more at later. So you're bringing your little travel kit. That's really good. And are you on watercolor paper or canvas today?
Paper. I cut up some watercolor paper and
brought perfect. I do that a lot when I travel. It's a great idea.
I've never worked in watercolors. Is there anything I need to know and think about?
Notice I said when I travel. When I travel, whenever that might be. Oh, I really want to go somewhere, but the thing is, the fall is so pretty here. So it's I'm really enjoying the fall right now. So I think you'll notice that my horizon line is not dead center. It's slightly above the center. So this is always a good idea when you're doing a landscape, is to divide the sky and the water, or the sky and the land, by just raising up your horizon line ever so slightly. Do you know what I'm going to do? Just because we're going to be doing a lot of white today, I'm actually going to paint on wood so that you can see where I'm putting white. I'm just going to go get a piece of wood. I think that'd be better. I really enjoy painting on these wooden panels you get from Dollarama. Have you seen these? They're so nice to paint on. Obviously, Jane, not very travel friendly because they're a lot heavier when you bring in a few, but I really like them. Okay, so I'm going to do it on wood so you can see where I'm putting everything. So I'm going to start with pure white. Just a little bit. So Jane, you don't need to worry about this because you're watercolor, so your paper is white. You don't need to worry about the the white. So
down in little tubes.
Yeah, so you don't need to use white when you're doing watercolor because your paper is the white. Yeah.
Oh.
So unless you really want to, but as a rule of thumb, I was told don't, just leave the white is the paper that shows through. So I'm just putting a little bit of white along the top of my horizon line, maybe about 2 fingers wide from above the horizon line, depending on what size canvas you're painting on, obviously. So I've been doing some little paintings on little pieces of live edge wood. So I might paint this afternoon on a little piece of wood, and then I'll send you all a photograph of it, because I had this idea of making coasters for people for Christmas gifts with little paintings on. I thought that might be fun. So we've got our little strip of white. We're now going to get a little bit of cadmium yellow. And we're going to apply this directly to the canvas. And we're going to blend this in with our white. So Jane, all you need to do is add your yellow, because you don't really need your white, unless you want to try your white. So we're going to make this a fairly pale yellow, because we're going to blend it into the white. And what we're going to do with this is make it quite painterly. So we've got our yellow or white blend into a yellow, but pick up a bit more white. And in a few places, we're going to kind of keep dipping in and out of our palette today. So we don't want kind of smooth transition. We're going to go for almost like a streaky approach. So our light source is going to be in the fairly kind of top right hand corner to middle. So can you see I'm just adding a bit more white top right hand corner. I might take my exposure down a little bit so it shows off a bit more. Does that show off a bit more like that? I know it's gone a bit dark. Can you see the white here?
Yeah.
It's kind of like got a bit there, and then it's coming down, and eventually it's going to come across here a little bit. So it's like a step approach. So we've got kind of 1, 2, 3.
I'm using my grandson's paintbrushes.
Oh, how old's your grandson?
Almost 5 and almost 3.
So they might not be the best.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. It's all learning.
Doesn't matter at all. Okay, let's give our brush a little rinse. Okay, this is where it's useful to have, we talked about the color strips, like little strips of paper. If you have any little strips of paper. Okay, I made this in a previous class. So those people who are in my Oops to Awesome class will know that we did a little bit of color mixing from ochre to ultramarine last Wednesday, and you can see, can you see all the different colors you can get? I'll bring my exposure up a little bit. Going from yellow ochre to ultramarine. So we're going to be using all of these colors today. So this is why I kind of wanted to do this as a full palette, because you can see how many beautiful colors you can get with just 2 colors. I think these 2, you get the most contrast out of a lot of the different colors that are opposite. So yellow ochre has a little bit of an orange base, so that's why it works quite well with ultramarine. But You get all these beautiful greens going into teals. So the color we're aiming for is this one. So this one is ultramarine with a tiny bit of yellow ochre, only a little bit. And then we're going to be using more of these other colors throughout today. So it's a pretty good exercise for using these this color palette. So I'm gonna keep that handy, and if you need to see at any point, it's just right here. So let me know when you want to see it. So let's get our ultramarine, and we're going to just add a tiny bit of yellow ochre into it, not too much. So what we're aiming for is this, just a little bit of a teal. So you still want a little bit of the ultramarine, but or cobalt blue if that's all you have. So we're just taking the blueness off. We're just taking the edge off. So it will still very much be blue, but we're just adding in a little bit of the yellow ochre.
Julie, if we don't have the ochre, the yellow will make it green.
Yep. So if you
So-
don't have the ochre, here's one I prepared earlier. This is what you'll get.
Right.
So you'll get more of a green. So to combat that, you can add a tiny bit of red in. So basically yellow ochre is yellow with purple. So do you, first of all, do you have yellow in a purple in a tube?
I do.
So just get some purple and add a very tiny amount of cadmium yellow, and you will make yellow ochre. Then you
Okay.
will get this color.
Purple in the yellow, and then put that in with the blue.
So purple plus yellow will make yellow ochre.
So we're making like a warm blue.
Yeah, a warm blue. So Karen, do you have yellow ochre?
Yeah, I've already mixed it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, yeah, perfect. So when you have it, you can apply about 1 finger deep along the top of your canvas.
Mine's too teal.
Yeah, so just play with it. I mean, you might like the teal, so.
No, it's
Oh.
too green. But I put too much of the other one I was.
Okay.
That's better.
Yeah. I think I've lost. No. Did I lose Kathy and Frank, or are they still there? Still there. You went either side of the camera. I thought I'd lost you. Okay, so I'm just gonna now start mixing in a bit of white to get a bit of a transition down to my ochre. So not to my ochre, sorry. I'm not saying ochre. I mean, I'm transitioning down
Working
to
bedroom. No.
First, okay, I'm gonna.
So we are going to add more whites and yellows on this afterwards. We're going to layer it. So when I get to about where my yellow is, I'm going to very carefully I want to leave this brightness in the middle. I'm just going to put a little bit of pale blue. So I'm adding a lot more white to my blue, and I'm just going to bring it out from the sides inwards. I'm being very gentle. Guess what I got yesterday?
What?
I got a new kitten yesterday.
Oh my.
So I will bring the kitten to meet you at the end if you want. You could hear her crying upstairs because it literally got him last night. So I'm just going very gentle in at the sides. I want to keep the light in the middle. So it will go a tiny bit greeny, but hopefully not too green. You know, and if your light source ends up in a different place, that's okay.
Ah.
How's it going? So we are going to put more layers on. We're just getting the basics down. Jane, how is it going with the watercolors?
Well, I'm learning.
Yeah, it's a different feel.
You want to see what I'm doing?
Yeah, I'd love to. Hold on. Lost my mouse.
Oh,
Here we go. Here we go. There's my mouse. Like, my mouse is skedaddled. Oh, very nice. Yeah.
I've never worked with watercolors, so I'm learning.
Yeah,
to
so
make
watercolors a bit different because you can get your lights and darks by just diluting them more. So you definitely don't need anywhere near the thick. And one nice thing is if you want like a nice transition, you can actually wet the paper first and then apply the watercolor.
Right.
But only wet the paper where you want it to bleed. So you can kind of control the bleeding of the color. And the
Right.
nice thing is you can re-wet watercolor. So if it's gone too thick or too heavy or too dark, you can actually re-wet it and use a paper towel and blot it off.
It's fascinating.
Does everybody have their sky?
No,
Almost. Oh, geez.
No, take your time. Lots of time today. Jane, it would be wonderful if you could take some photographs of the ocean and send them to me. I might be able to turn them into some painting ideas.
Sure.
I'm always looking for new ideas.
Julie? Julie,
Okay.
I can't see where the horizon line now, on the right side of your picture down where you have that streak of blue right there. Is that the horizon line right there?
Yep, that's a horizon line.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've gone sort of over the yellow. I can't see the yellow anymore.
The
Okay.
yellow's there. We've just blended it with the pale
Okay.
blue.
Okay.
Yeah. We're going to put more layers on top, which you can't do, Jane, with watercolor, but we'll work around it.
Yeah. Just add water.
Yeah.
how's it so far, Julie?
Oh, wow, Karen, that's gorgeous.
So I tried to do more light on that side and a bit darker on that side.
Beautiful. And we can add some flashes of white once it's dry as well. That's a nice stormy, kind of cool fall day. be ready for the next bit.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So we're going to take the same color as we did at the top. So that kind of slightly teal, the ultramarine and the ochre. I'm going to reestablish our horizon line. Sorry, I'm going to turn my canvas on its side so I can get it nice and straight. Hopefully. Straight-ish. Okay. We'll start by painting about a 2-finger wide line of water at the top. Okay. And then whilst we've got the bottom exposed, we're gonna just figure out where the sandbank is gonna go. So I'm just going to mix basically the bottom color that I'm gonna have. So a little bit of that tealy blue we've just been using with a lot of white and a little bit of yellow ochre. So you should make kind of like an aqua, almost white, but slightly aqua green feel. Franca and Kathy, did you manage to mix a yellow ochre okay with the purple? Yeah.
Yes,
Excellent.
yeah.
Okay.
There.
Oh, perfect. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Well done. Okay, so I've just put white, ultramarine, and a little bit of yellow ochre to make this color. And I'm going to establish my sandbank. So my sandbank's about 4 fingers high from the end, and I'm on an 8x10 canvas. And it's about 4 fingers from the edge that way. So if I put 4 fingers there, I'm going to do a gradual like sandbank, and it's going to be about 4 fingers high here. So take it up about there.
All right. Ochre.
So ultramarine blue, lots of white, and a little bit of yellow ochre. And then we're going to take that up to meet our blue. And as you get further up towards your blue, we just want to transition that. So we're just gonna gradually work back towards that ultramarine ochre mixture. So the same color we had at the top of the sky, at the top of the horizon. So as long as it's lighter at the bottom and darker at the top, it doesn't matter if we all paint something slightly differently. So can you see this color strip? We're working within this color scheme at the moment. It's really fun to see how we can apply all this. See how we've applied it to the reeds and to the sand, and I would recommend making some of these. So Jane, if you've got 5 minutes and you want to just have a play with your watercolors, you could just do some some strips of yellow, ochre, ultramarine, and all the transitions in between.
That's good.
They're just kind of handy as little references. It's like, oh, I want that color. How did I make it again? And then you can kind of see how you made it.
Right.
I keep them in my box of Paynes.
Mine's in my binder that we made the other day.
Yeah.
I didn't even think to bring it.
Oh, it's okay. Make some more.
Yeah.
But you could have like a fun time making yourself lots and lots of different little strips with all different color combinations while you're away.
Yeah.
Could sit on the beach and just
I
make
know.
yourself like all different color palette strips, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and it's a good way for you to play with your watercolors too. But when
Right.
the kids have gone to bed, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting how how they add the water and the change and everything.
Yeah,
I kind of like it.
yeah, it's very relaxing, the watercolors.
Yeah.
So I do the watercolors as part of my mindfulness class.
Oh, really?
And we've done some really pretty little easy paintings. While everybody's painting, I'm just going to run up and get it and give you a few ideas of very simple things you can do with your watercolors while you're away.
Okay. Thank you.
So I've been teaching, I'm on my third term teaching mindfulness. So I'll just find, here you go. There's a feather.
Oh, nice.
So you just draw a line.
Yeah.
And then you just draw some teardrop shapes.
Right.
And then just kind of with a black, needs to be a permanent marker so the watercolor doesn't, you know, make it bleed, but just do some like little random patterns in each space and then just play with the watercolor. So that's one.
That's
I'll
neat.
show you. I had a lot of fun with this one.
Oh, wow.
So again, I just used a permanent marker for and then you just play with like different, you know, just mix slightly different blues, but it's all the same shape. And you just leave the paper white. But what I did was I actually wet the paper first, and then I put the ink on, and it only bleeds up to where it's wet, so it doesn't bleed into the dry. That's another one.
Huh, that's cool.
And then there's some flowers you can have a play with. This is pencil, watercolor pencil, but you can easily do this with your watercolors.
Wow.
Just like a little, and again, that's quite simple to draw. And then maybe you could just look on the internet and get a few
ideas,
outlines. This one I'm going to do with watercolor. So this one was one I was doodling last night. So you just make a line and then make a teardrop shape every now and again around the line. So it's one continuous wavy line.
Right.
And then just put like a few smaller lines inside, but it's really effective, but it's actually very, very simple. And then you could get your watercolors and just kind of transition from one color to another, from one end to the other.
Oh yeah.
So you could have a lot of fun with them, you know. This is a few little ideas of things you can do to play while you've got them.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you want me to send you any of those, I can.
I'll let you know. Yeah.
I'm going to be putting some watercolor lessons on my YouTube at some point when I have some time. Okay, so while we wait for that to dry, we're going to block in our little beach area.
Okay.
So we're going to start with yellow ochre and white. And we're basically going to make the same color as the wood I've got here. So, you know, very pale ochre color. It's like a cream. That's basically like a creamy color, beige. Make sure you have clean water and a clean brush because you do not want this to turn green. So I recommend clean water, clean brush, keep it away from the blue. Unless you want green sand. Okay, so we're just gonna block out that section first. We'll add all the detail on later.
Julie, what colors were you just using there? It looks white.
Just
the
white and yellow ochre, so I made a kind of creamy color.
Okay.
So just white with a little bit of yellow ochre. We are going to add more on top. We're just kind of making a bit of a base coat. Did everybody have a lovely weekend? Anybody do anything really fun and different apart from going to California? Felt like this weekend went so fast because last weekend was a long weekend. Jane, does everybody have to still wear masks in the stores there?
No,
So it's all kind of mask free now there?
well, within reason. I mean, we certainly have the masks. We went to the pumpkin patch yesterday.
Right.
And we had the masks to put on. The
Right.
kids had on for, you know, once it got really busy.
Right.
Right. So Katie and John are really good that way.
Yeah. Yeah, England's gone pretty mask free from what my sister's been saying.
Mhm. And we'll get there, but
Yeah.
you know,
It makes
as
sense.
Katie said to me last time, Mom, you do what Mom wants to do. You know,
Yes.
everyone's different.
Exactly.
You do you.
Yeah. So give me a shout when you've all done that little bank bit. How dry is your sky and water? Do we need to give them a quick dry? How's yours, Karen?
It's still a bit wet, but I can get a hairdryer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll start the sky when everybody's ready. And then we'll do so I would say get it kind of so we can apply another layer. we ready to have a go at the sky? I'll wait for everybody to come back. How we doing, Jane?
Couldn't find a hair dryer.
Oh.
Sort of blowing on it and okay, found
Oh,
a glue.
yeah. How warm is it outside? Can you put it outside for a minute?
It's not warm outside. No.
Oh, well.
No, it's only 17 here today.
Right. Okay.
So, I'll just take my time.
Take your time. That's okay.
But it's interesting. I've done sand before and that other one, and this one is way better.
Is it? Oh.
Compared to what I did before. So I'm learning.
Do you think that's because it's the watercolors?
Could be.
Could be.
Or maybe I have a better sense now, like
Yeah.
I feel each time I gain more information and understanding, and
Yeah.
so I don't know.
I think we're constantly learning. And the more we practice, it's like anything. It's like learning piano or, anything really. We're just constantly learning. I think that's what's so wonderful about us as human beings. We never stop learning, right? Okay. Well, if everybody's ready, I'd like to start the sky. Is everybody ready? Yeah. Okay. Okay, perfect, right? So this is going to be fairly easy, and the idea is we want it to be a little bit rough. So it definitely doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to be using a filbert, so a rounded ended brush, but make sure that there's no blue on it. And I start with pure white. And I'm just going to put a flash of color. And again, I want this to be fairly rough and chunky. So I'm putting a flash of white, kind of in a stepped approach. So it's like kind of climbing stairs. And then a bit more in the middle here. So I will start with those chunks. I can hear a naughty little mouse in the attic space above my head. Waging war on a mouse for a few days. Oh. We lost Jane for a minute. We lost you for a minute, Jane.
I don't know what happened. Sorry.
That's
You
okay.
want- Do you want it more defined or less defined than that?
No, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. So now what we're going to do is get some of our pure yellow ochre and we're going to put it underneath. It's going to appear to be quite bold, but we're going to go with it. So putting pure yellow ochre underneath those white patches we've just made.
Oops. Hi. No, just a minute. She's coming.
Yep, so I'm just putting a little bit of ochre. So we're going to start with pure ochre, but we are going to put some yellow in before this dries. So I'm just doing it on those 3 main clouds. So I'm doing yellow ochre, but I'm also going to put, this is where we're going to play with some pure colors. I'm going to put some pure yellow in between the white and the ochre.
I'm sorry, Julie, where are you putting the pure yellow?
So I've done white and ochre, and then I'm putting yellow, pure yellow in between.
Okay.
So I have had students do this with a palette knife. So if you have a palette knife and you want to have a play with it, now's the time. If anybody has a palette knife and wants to just do a little bit of a chunky feel to this. You want to be a little bit playful? Go ahead. How are we doing with that? Ready for the next bit? I think we lost Jane again. Oh, well, this is why I record it. Okay. Hopefully we'll get her back and she can catch up. So we're gonna figure out where our first wave is, the main wave, the focal wave, which is this one. I'm going to put in all of the finer detail later. So I'm going to use a fairly large flat brush. I'm dipping into my white. So it's going to be about 2 fingers down from my horizon line. And I'm going to create a slightly wobbly line all the way across to the other side. It's helpful if your canvas is fairly dry for this. It'd be good if this white really stands out.
Oh.
And the reason why we need it quite dry is the white that's underneath, we're gonna just dab it. We're doing a little bit of scumbling by dabbing the white that's underneath. There we go. Now hopefully that will feel a little bit like a rolling wave. Take your time with it. We got lots of time. Walking away and I didn't realize it was on mute. Karen, who are we missing today? Do you have the list?
Janice is away.
Yeah.
Don't have the list in front of me, but I can go get it.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So in the group, Kathy's here, correct, Hope?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kathy and Franca, Janice, Chris is
Christina,
broken. Oh, Christina, that's who I was missing.
Debbie,
Oh, Chris. Yeah, she's hurt a leg.
Debbie Hindmarch,
That's who I'm missing. Debbie.
and Leanne, Jane.
And Moira.
Moira, I heard, is going through some chemo right now.
Oh, yeah. I'm recording it for Moira. So it's Leanne and Debbie and Janice. Right. No problem. I was just checking. I'm recording it anyway, so I'll just make sure it goes out. And then hopefully everybody got the notes and the recording that I sent out over the weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. So is everybody ready for the next step? Karen and Kathy and Frankie, ready? Good. Got a thumbs up. Okay. So we're just going to put a little bit of dark blue. So that tealy blue that we used on the horizon. So it's the ultramarine plus a little bit of yellow ochre. So it's going to appear to be quite dark, but we are going to blend it. And we're just going to take it up underneath that wave. So we're going to cut it in by just dabbing. Can everybody see that? So it looks dark underneath. And this is to create the shadow behind the wave to make it feel more like a rolling wave. So I'm just kind of placing it. And then I'll blend it out. Can everybody see that shadow? Poor Jane, I think she was having a few connection problems. Okay, so I'm now just blending that back into my watercolor. A lot of my water, not watercolor. Hopefully that creates a bit of a wave. Give me a shout when you've done that.
No, that's as good as it's gonna get. Sorry, I thought I was on mute.
That's okay. I like it when I hear you.
You know, it's kind of like about an hour and a half in, I start to think I'm done. I can't do anything because I'm getting tired and I'm making
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly what you mean. You do get tired. So there's no rush to do this. We can finish it off next week. All I want to do is put in a few more of the where the waves are gonna go. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna get some pure white. And I'm gonna put in a second wave a little bit lower here. So again, just a bit of a wobbly line. And I'm going to put in a few other lines that are going to appear to be turning into more like little ripples. Yeah, painting can be relaxing, but it does require a level of concentration, and it's a different type of concentration than if you were doing something, you know, highly academic. But it's still you're still working, so it can still be tiring. So same thing, I'm going to put a slightly darker color underneath. Not as dark as the last one. So I designed this last year when this time last year was when Ken went in for his surgery, and I went down to Lakeshore, just right where the hospital is, Joseph Brandt, and just sat there and sketched this out. So I'm just adding some white to my blue the closer it gets to the shore. And then I'm going to bring in a tiny bit more ochre as well. So it's kind of looks like very shallow water. And you can see the sand underneath. It's a shame we lost Jane. Do you see how I've used the ochre to make it look like sand underneath? A little bit shallower. You still with me? Karen, how are we doing? Oh, you're muted, I think.
I'm starting to make a mess. I'm done.
Oh, okay. No, are you ready for a break? Well, I think everybody's done really well this week, and we can pick up where we left off next week, but it's good to know when to stop when you've had enough, because you don't want to overwork it. So let's take a little break, and next week we're going to work on the foliage and the seagulls. And that's relatively simple. So one thing I would recommend bringing, if you have it for next week, is a very thin marker, either brown or black. If you happen to have a brown, very thin marker, then that would be great. It's probably be either that or a thin brown pencil would also work. So a thin dark brown pencil. Something to help us sketch out the reeds so that we're not doing it, trying to do it with the paintbrush. So it's a little bit of a cheat, but I think you'll find it most helpful.
How about one of these things?
Let's see. A
So,
pencil
yeah.
crayon? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, just a brown one if you have one. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna use, I've got some ultra thin brown Sharpies that I'm gonna use, and I've also got some brown pencils, so I might do a bit of a combination of the two. So hopefully, does everybody have something at that stage-ish?